Hey, how's it going? I'm a guy who's learning Japanese. I've been learning Japanese for about 4.5 years, and I'm sure you're wondering, why? Because it's cool, alright? Do I need any more reason than that? Probably. It's not one big reason, but many small ones. There's, of course, things like the culture is cool, I think the geography of the place is cool, blah, blah, blah. But of course, you probably want to know the biggest reason. I guess the biggest driving reason of why I'm learning a language at all is because I'm an introverted person. I've always been a little bit introverted. When I was a kid, I was shy. When I was a teenager, I made some friends, and I had my small group of friends, and I was happy with that. I didn't want to make any more friends. And I carried that sort of attitude in my adult life, and somewhere in my mid-20s, I realized that that was really bad, that I couldn't just get along with a few people and be okay with that. I needed to have more friends because, honestly, connections are important. I've learned through my life that having connections is very important, whether it be family, friends, or even friends of friends. It's good to have connections between people where you can further some of your endeavors, whether it be looking for a job, or trying to further something in your hobbies, or learn a new skill, like a language. Just knowing people is really helpful, especially when those people might know other people who could help you out, and give you pointers, and tell you where to go and what to do and blah, blah, blah. And I thought one of the best ways to make new friends and increase my skill of making friends and talking with people and getting to know people would be to put myself in the most difficult setting to do that. If I could do it in the most difficult setting, which is, of course, learning a different language, one of the languages that is the most difficult for an English speaker to learn, which is Japanese, of course, one of the most difficult. If I can learn Japanese and talk to people in Japanese, then talking to people in my own language really won't be that hard. Making friends won't be that hard, because if I can make friends with people that are across the world in a different language, surely I'll be able to make friends with people in my hometown. At least that's the goal. Unfortunately, over the past 4.5 years, I really haven't improved in learning Japanese very much. When I started learning, I used Duolingo, which a lot of people will say it's not very good, and they're right. It's not very good, but I will defend it by saying the beginning part of it, that learning the first part of the language, at least for Japanese, was pretty useful. I learned hiragana and katakana, and in about 2 weeks, I could read it. Kanji is a lot more difficult, but I also learned a lot of the basics, some vocabulary, and a little bit of how those sentences worked. And in a very short time of a few weeks, I jumped up to knowing quite a bit. And over time, I started to increase my range of sources, like using YouTube and dictionaries and things like that, to try and learn more words and try to piece together sentences and things like that. And something that I think in learning in general, doesn't have to be a language, just learning anything at all, part of the reason why it's so difficult is actually that jump where you go from knowing nothing to knowing something and feeling like you're actually improving. That is so much fun. And I know that sounds weird to say that that's difficult, but it's really that part after it that's difficult. You go from knowing nothing about it to knowing something and feeling like you're improving really fast and learning a lot, and then suddenly everything starts to become so much more difficult. You start to learn how much time you need to put into it. You learn all of the things that you need to know, because there's so much that you need to know. And you know nothing, and it feels really bad. It starts to feel really bad after this. After this huge spike, you start to slow down. At least I did, and I think in a lot of learning that tends to happen. And eventually I started to plateau. and I probably did learn some things incrementally because I've been practicing, but it's been really tough. I'd say this is where my skills are. Where I think my skills are at now, I'm at like a 5 in reading. I can read stuff. I can understand stuff. Kanji, not so much, which is really important. I can't write at all. I can trace things. I can look at the letters, but for some reason, there's like a block in my brain. I can see it and recognize it perfectly, but writing it, I can't write hiragana or katakana, or definitely not kanji. I have to look at what I'm doing. Listening, I'd say I'm pretty good. I'm about a 20 out of 100. I can listen to sentences and really understand a lot of what's being said, but my speaking skills are like a 2. I haven't really had very many opportunities to actually speak. I don't have that many Japanese friends. I pretty much don't have any at all. And I just haven't really been able to do that. This is where I want my skills to be, where I'd consider like fluent. I think like a really good reading level of like, if 100 is perfect, then 80 is pretty good. Writing, I don't know if writing's really that important. I'm not a Japanese person. I wouldn't need to write in the language that often. Even if I moved and lived there, I don't think I would need to write that often. Maybe texting, but that's very different, because that's just picking out the letters that you already know. So, yeah, listening, I want to be 100. Speaking, I want to be 100. And to get to this point, I need to practice a lot more. So what's the point? What's the point of this video is to explain a little bit about why I'm learning Japanese, and that I want to continue it. Even though I've definitely slowed down and my skills haven't improved in probably like 2 years, it hasn't really jumped up very much, but I absolutely still want to learn the language. So, while I recommit to this idea, I'm going to make videos about it. I want to kind of show my process and make a series where you can kind of learn with me. I will be making videos where I go back and go over all of the things that I do understand. I'm not a teacher, so you can't really use it as a way to absolutely learn, but maybe a way to learn / get inspired, hopefully, or just find entertainment out of it because I'm learning a language and I'm going to suck at it. So yeah, I want to do a series on the whole learning process and everything that I do, and also just kind of talk about random stuff that I find interesting in the language, because I can't do that with all of my friends who don't speak Japanese, so yeah, I guess this is a place to do that. Anyways, that's it. Bye.